You all right, mate? All right, guys, today we have a special edition of Shootin The Shift for you. We're going to be talking about two of the most iconic car movies of all time.
Of course, the two, whether you want to agree with this or not, are Gone in 60 Seconds and...
Cars. Not kidding.
so funny.
Fast and the Furious.
One.
The first one.
Yeah.
It's the only one that matters.
Yeah,
the rest,
not
they're
five,
all garbage.
or 4, or Tokyo Drift. No.
The rest
All
were
right?
just to take your money.
Oh.
The first one, it was worth it.
Exactly.
Both movies came out in summertime. Gone in 60 Seconds came out in the year 2000. Fast and Furious came out in 2001. Both huge movies, big box office successes. To me, I think Fast and Furious was just it was a moment in time.
I think they both have a stamp in our lives. One obviously involves car theft, a lot of car theft.
Yeah.
The other one
also involved theft.
In some
part of the movie.
In some sense, yeah.
They were stealing electronics though, not cars.
Exactly. So obviously, Fast and Furious really opened the world up to a culture that we all know and love, which are car meets, and I'm sure anyone watching this has been to one at least or drove past one, and definitely blew up that immense culture for everyone, and kind of shed light on what it is and how deep it goes. So
I think Fast and Furious was big because, you know, if you were into cars, you were aware of people who tuned cars, modified cars, you know, changed the appearance of them, modified the engines, things like that. But this movie really brought that stuff to light and really made it popular to where, you know, everybody had a green light bar under their car so it could glow at night.
It clarified definitely the reasoning and why a lot of girlfriends were questioning the immense collection of Super Street magazine that every boy had at some point.
Yep.
So for me, Gone in 60 Seconds was a lot more drama. It was definitely the infatuation that all Mustang lovers have with the GT500, aka Eleanor, and the personal relationship and the definition of why and the reasoning why men speak to cars, why men call upon cars and have a personal connection, and I want to say binding, in-depth binding between car and man. So that to me was definitely crazy. And obviously Angelina Jolie, you can't really, come on, like let's just be real here for a second.
Yeah, I don't know about that, man. We had Michelle Rodriguez and Jordana Brewster, Vin Diesel, Paul Walker. Like, I mean, the lineup in Fast and Furious is yeah, it was an iconic. It was a car guys movie. Gone in 60 Seconds was a little bit more of a fluff piece because there was a lot of Hollywood, like real big Hollywood stars, and the movie had like it was really about boosting cars, and then a lot of the most famous car in that one is that particular car is the GT500. The rest are there was a lot of exotics and stuff like that in that lineup. But Fast and Furious to me, there was a lot of racing. There was a lot of modifying cars. There was an Eclipse with a 25 gear gearbox, which in the opening scene of the movie, if you're paying attention, you'll notice that Paul Walker changes gears at least. I don't remember what the count is, but I think it's 12 gears or something like that.
What we saw was the birth of how many gears we have now, which is like 8 or maybe like 10.
he had a semi truck gearbox.
That's what he had
in the Eclipse.
It was 1.5, 2, 2.5.
It was so.
It makes sense.
That was one of the biggest critiques of people after the movie was that particular scene where he shifts gears. I think it's over 10 times.
One scene you cannot really discount is Angelina Jolie having sex in a Lamborghini Diablo, or while they're stealing a Lamborghini Diablo, and she puts the lipstick of the female.
They don't actually end up having sex.
Wow.
They start to mess around, and then they think they're gonna get caught, and then they take the car and leave.
Wow.
So you remember?
I do.
They start talking about how the shifter is always in the way.
Yeah.
Come on, bro.
I do I would like to say that both movies have a lot of faking, and if you guys know, obviously the 16 gearbox is one of them, and the jump that Eleanor does over like bridge traffic magically and lands with like minor scuffs and whatnot is also.
Speaking of having sex in those movies, in Fast and Furious,
Did you have sex?
Vin Diesel. No.
Did you have sex in the movie?
Too many guys in the theater. I was with a bunch of dudes, so that was my old life. Okay, I don't do that anymore.
Got it. All right.
In Fast and Furious, Vin Diesel and Michelle Rodriguez actually do have sex on top of a car, which is pretty hot. So.
That's true. In the garage with tools. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he picks her up. Yeah, it's pretty. They actually do. You know, see, freaking what's his name? Main actor comes. Can't think of
Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage doesn't even get any in that movie.
But look at him. Listen, anybody who knows the Nicolas Cage movie, you know he always looks depressed for some reason. Yeah. Even if he's happy, he's just
no. He always looks like he's high on cocaine. His eyes are wide open all the time.
So I would say that I do agree with you. We both actually remember fondly going to the Fast and Furious opening, in which
it was nuts.
Getting there wasn't an issue. Getting out of there was an issue because it was just a multi-story garage complex filled with people going.
It was the first big like tuner car movie, or like where it was an import, mainly imports, even though they had the Dodge. Was that a Challenger that he had at the end?
Yes.
That Vin Diesel had?
Yeah, Vin Diesel's 10-second
which
car.
Was in the movie was his dad's car or whatever. That was pretty much the only domestic in the movie. The rest were all imports. So, but yeah, it was a huge deal. Like I remember going with my brother and my buddy that had a red Integra GSR, GS,
something like that. Yeah.
And
I think or maybe
it was a huge. He had the exhaust on it. He had the intake, and everybody getting to the movie theaters revving their engines, and then everybody in the movie theaters going nuts when they see all the cars, and then after the movie. I remember everybody applauding and then like leaving in the garage. This was in Sunset Place in Miami on Sunset Drive.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember in the parking garage, and you're in a garage full of cars, and you can just hear cars revving.
Everybody was just revving because you couldn't move.
Yeah.
Everybody was paying out to get paid, to pay their parking, and they couldn't move.
So it was definitely. I don't remember that happening for Gone in 60 Seconds, but for Fast and the Furious, it was like huge. It was a crazy movie.
I remember my mind being blown because car chase wise, Gone in 60 Seconds takes the cake. Period.
Oh yeah,
like it's ridiculous, and the anxiety when
exactly
Nicolas Cage cannot, after such a beating the car's taken, the car just dies on him. The cops are on his ass, and he's just trying like as much as possible. And you could see how he has that connection with the car, and he even references a while back where he got pinched because the car just let him down and he got caught. So
yeah, that scene where he's in that famous what is that in LA? That famous, I think it's not a river. It's like I don't know.
He's talking about, well, we don't know the name, so forgive us, but it's definitely what used to be a river, but is not. It's also in a lot of Los Angeles.
It's like a man-made.
Just a tiny bit of water, but it's mostly just a playground for cars.
It's the chase. I mean, he's being chased by the cops. He's in Eleanor. He's being chased by the cops. Then a helicopter shows up,
and he pressed the boost
button.
The
boost button on the shifter, and then he gets away from the cop. So,
which again begs to differ. Again, I've never driven the car personally, but the guy in the helicopter says obviously he's gone, and the tachometer taps out at about 180, I believe.
Okay, it's called the LA River. That's what it's called.
There you go.
Yeah,
we look stupid now.
we weren't wrong. It's a Los Angeles
River. We weren't
river.
Informed. So that's what it was.
Yeah, that was obviously one of the sickest scenes.
Yeah.
Even though he ends up pretty much destroying the car. But.
Not discounting the man's manner of acting, but even when he goes present the car and it's trashed, he's like, oh, just minor scuffs. You know, you got to you'll buff it out. You'll get it at a discount, and it's fine. Yeah. So it's definitely an emotional piece. And, they both movies definitely have a lot of drama. You get, obviously, Dom and his sister, and when they find out that Brian O'Connor is a cop. That there's a lot of drama in there. What's this guy's name? Vince. You know, when he gets shot, and Brian's the only one that could save him. So there's definitely a lot of stuff going on. So I think it's fair to say, as far as drama's involved, both movies definitely have, if not a similar.
Yeah.
Or a same level, it's definitely a little bit higher than the other one.
Well, that was pretty much the rise of the Supra as well, which people who didn't know about the car before now knew about the car. It drove up the value of the car actually, so people that car started to be sold a lot more than it did before. People were buying it up because of the movie. They knew now that car had the power to be, it has one of the greatest engines of all time, being the 2JZ, and that you can heavily modify the engine and get a lot of power out of it without having to rebuild the entire engine itself. So, that movie brought to light a lot of that.
To my amazement, the the production budget for Gone in 60 Seconds was $103 million. In comparison to the $38 million that they used for Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, I believe that.
That was insane.
For sure. You can tell watching the movie, you can tell that they didn't have a lot of, that's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money when it comes to a big blockbuster movie, because in reality, they didn't know if the movie was going to do well or not. It happened.
It was the thing,
It happened to come out at the right time, and there hadn't been a movie like it before.
Right. All the actors that participated in the first one, and some of them that have now, I guess, gone further into the other ones, would say we never anticipated this to last this long. Yeah. We're just kind of just giving what the world wants, which is a very select few, because we don't want any more.
You started to see a lot of spoilers.
Yes.
After that movie.
Yeah.
So that's where the thanks to Fast and Furious for the shopping cart, for the spoiler on a car that it doesn't need to be on, that it has no aerodynamic value or anything like that. It's just for looks.
Like a 95 gold Corolla in Hialeah.
Yes. Yeah. Or like a Civic EX with a spoiler on it.
What's wrong with the Civic EX?
The EX?
What's wrong with it?
Well, I'm just saying the spoiler does nothing.
I'm just saying. Well, some of them come with.
Probably slows it down, actually, to be honest.
I disagree.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's something you can eat off of it, I guess, when you're at McDonald's.
That's actually true. That is true. If you're at Sonic's, definitely. Obviously, you guys know that in the States, at least, Fast and the Furious completely destroyed Gone in 60 Seconds as far as sales. They reported, I believe, the domestic value was 229 million. Okay, in comparison to 169, but globally, Gone in 60 Seconds took the cake at 232 million compared to the 206 that Fast and the Furious came in with.
But the Fast and Furious franchise has brought in $4 billion.
Oh, well, yeah, of course.
So
yeah. That's because of the continuance.
Well, that's because they have 50 versions of the movie now. So, Fast and the Furious. When our grandkids are gonna watch Fast and the Furious 202
with hybrid cars going up against each other, and fake flames and stuff,
with the hologram version of Vin Diesel.
So both these cards we have. As far as our generation, of course, because you have Smoking the Bandit and a bunch of other different car or Bullet. A bunch of different car movies in the past, but these are definitely ones that, for us at least, definitely polluted our mind with just everything.
Just the drag race scene in Fast and Furious with, you're right, Ja Rule, Vin Diesel, Paul Walker in the Eclipse. So just so we get the car lineup correct. Ja Rule had an Acura, which I believe to be a Type R, that was modified.
Integra.
He had there was an Asian guy that had they didn't say his name
Lancer.
in the movie.
He had a Lancer.
Oh, was it a Lancer?
It was a Lancer, yeah.
Okay, he's the one that was playing PlayStation in the
Correct.
car. Correct.
He had the PlayStation in the car. Yeah.
Vin Diesel had the RX-7,
which
he had his NOS tank was under the seat, which was pretty cool. And Paul Walker obviously had the 18 gear Eclipse GSR that he had modified to.
And of course, memorable lines like when Jesse opens the hood and just goes on about everything, and Ja Rule, for some reason, just by looking at it, says he's got enough NOS in there to blow himself up. Period. Like, if you can assess,
and
just by looking at
the best part about that line was that the NOS tank was inside the car. Like, he had the hood up, so how do you know how much NOS he has in there?
Because Ja Rule
Yeah.
works for Nas.
Yes.
He is, he's one of the guys that certifies all the
Nuts.
connections and knows. That's all.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
All you could see is that he had Nas lines running into the intake,
But not
That's
how much.
it. But I mean, you could see how much Nas he has in there.
Another thing I want to point out, we're stretching this already, but another thing I want to point out of the manifold. Okay, when the laptop comes up saying that the intake manifold is being somehow harmed because of the amount of NOS that he put in. There's a bunch of washers and nuts that hit like a panel and then it just falls. Like if that's the manifold, it's not the manifold.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And how would that give a warning? Like it won't give you a warning that the manifold is
Because there's a manifold
sensor.
Yeah, but it's on the passenger
Manifold
side.
bolt.
There's
A bolt sensor.
It's on the passenger side. It's
basically,
the floorboard.
Basically, the floorboard came apart.
But it somehow summoned 65 washers
Yeah.
to come off, and then that's how it.
I will say this though: that part of the floorboard coming off the car. If you have surround sound and you have like the DVD like with surround like with the 5.1 surround or whatever, you'll hear that piece of metal fly from the front speaker all the way to the back. It's pretty cool.
It sounds like Saving Private Ryan, basically.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool sound.
That's what it's, a bunch of a machine
I'm
gun
gonna
fire.
watch that movie today.
Yes. So another thing, obviously, that you guys want to, if you're gonna watch it again, like my brother is, actually both of us are gonna watch it again today, knowing us.
Yes.
The film director also makes a cameo in Fast and the Furious.
Oh yes,
he's the pizza
That's
boy
right.
that comes in when they're doing the race, and the gentleman in the R32 Skyline with the scanner tells him, "Find another way, pizza boy." And the guy says, "Goddamn street racers." That's the film director of the movie.
Was that him or was it the guy in the Ferrari?
No, it was him. No, in when they finally meet up, okay. And
I know what you're talking about. Was that him? Because I want to say that it was the guy in the Ferrari that was actually the film director. I think
No,
the guy that says when
Rob Cohen.
Paul Walker pulls up and he's like, he
no,
pulls in the Supra right next to the Ferrari and he's like,
Guy with the blonde hair.
yeah,
No,
he's like, nice car. How much one of those run? He's like,
more than you can
more
afford.
than you
pal.
can afford, pal. Ferrari. And then he ends up smoking him.
Yeah,
That Ferrari was I think that was a 355 Ferrari.
yeah, 355 decapotable.
Yeah, it was a Spider.
So definitely a lot of. I mean, you have the scene with Nick Cage's brother, who also stars in Sneaky Pete. Also a good show if you want to watch it. He when he's getting crushed by the car, and then him pretty much taking over his brother's role after his brother's retired, basically stealing cars. So there's definitely a lot of nuances and memories of both films where you're just coming to watch again, and particularly in the Fast and Furious franchise, for me at least, it's 1, 2 because it was shot in Miami, and then after I think even Tokyo Drift makes it into my lineup, but after that, like
For me, it's just 1, to be honest. I mean, all the other ones are just whatever to me. One is the one that has like, 1 was the one that was great. The rest of them are. I mean, you don't watch those movies for the acting because the acting sucks. To be honest, I mean, they're not. It's not great. So you really watch it for the cars and like the race scenes. And to me, 1 was the best one. I mean, it pretty much ended there for me.
Yeah, I think I can agree with you on that. Where one was definitely not so much graphics and whatnot. 2 seemed a lot more flamboyant with the even on the cars. Everything was all metallic graphic and the flame throwing and all that stuff, which continued from 1.
Yeah.
But definitely, obviously, Gone in 60 Seconds is not a franchise, but. Again, if both of them came on TV, I'm like, it's a tough decision because I love both of them, but I'll always go.
I guess it depends what part you catch it at. If you catch it at the beginning, I'm watching Fast and Furious. If you catch it like midway through, because I mean, really, Gone in 60 Seconds, the best scene is the Eleanor, the last part of the movie.
I think I'm honest. Well, no,
it's the Eleanor scene.
I enjoyed like there's some comedic scenes, like for example, like the fingerprints and I forget the actor's name. The older gentleman who's like the one who's in charge of producers tell me Robert Duvall and it's not him.
Duval.
The other gentleman who's responsible for Nick Cage's team of the surveillance and breaking into cars is trumped by the smaller gentleman who has the fingerprints and technology and how to like jack into cars now. So there's definitely some comedic presence there, because if not, it'll just be Nicolas Cage looking droopy.
Yeah, it's a funnier. Well, yeah, I mean, there's funny scenes in both. Also, the scene where he goes when Paul Walker goes into the shop to have the tuna sandwich.
Oh yeah,
he's like, no one likes the tuna. No one likes the tuna here.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I do.
I do. Yeah, so I think pretty much we agree that Fast and Furious is the best car movie of all time.
I'm literally having like a meltdown inside of me because I want to yell at my brother, but I mean, he's right.
Yep.
I can't really.
It has the best lines.
Most memorable lines.
It has
definitely.
It's the most cars. I think it's probably the most amount of cars in one movie. If you combine like the car meet scene and race wars and like all like just so many different cars in one movie.
That's definitely in Gone in 60 Seconds. You get glimpses of a lot of cars, classic, foreign and domestic.
They talk about, because they're in that movie, they're boosting how many cars?
I think over like 150 or something, or 100 cars.
It's an insane amount of cars. But they have a board where they have all the cars that they're boosting. Correct. And at certain points, you see the board and what cars they're going to take. Yeah. But you don't get to see all of them.
That's why I say it's like a couple seconds of each car, and then you're back to
the scene of the car meet in Fast and Furious 1, getting there, and then when everybody leaves for the for the actual race, it's like, dude, it's an insane amount of cars.
And when the cops come,
funny story. In high school, we knew this guy named Raul. Shout out to Raul. He had a Hyundai Sonata or Elantra. I don't know. It was
Tiburon?
No, Tiburon. Correct. It was a Tiburon, and he had a body kit, wheels, the whole nine. And he was actually in Fast and Furious 1 for like 0.1 seconds. So when we went to go see the movie, he was super hyped. He didn't know. He wasn't sure how long his car was going to be in the movie. He wasn't sure if it was like 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Yep. He just knew the car was in the movie. Bro, legit, none of us saw the car. And then it wasn't until the movie actually, like, I think the second time we went to go see it, we got to see it, and it was legit, like,
he was
0.1 second.
In a sea of people sitting down watching the movie, goes, we didn't know what to look at because it was gone.
It was literally like, it was in... like an immeasurable amount of time. It was so small. But yeah, that was a funny part of that.
So guys, as per usual, please, I know there's a bunch of car films out there, and this is obviously our examples of two. Well, it might be. It's our examples and one of the best duels to pit against each other, but I know there's a lot of in the past and maybe some present movies that hold their same competition and maybe could be better pitted against each other. So if you believe so, then let us know in the comments.
Yeah, if you think there's something more influential than Fast and the Furious, which I mean, I'm not aware of any. I think that's it's the biggest car movie of all time. I mean, obviously there's newer versions of it, but that one really set the bar like super high.
So as always, link, comment, subscribe, turn on the notifications so you get that nice little with the bell noise and the vibration in your pants or wherever you have your phone to let you know exactly when we're uploading.
That's right. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Have a wonderful evening, day, afternoon, whatever you're having.